What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. We did get some initial sales numbers, kinda, to a degree anyway, for Link's Awakening in the UK, and you're gonna wanna see these because I think there's still a very strong market for top-down Zelda games. That makes me really happy because I still really like the top-down Zelda games, even though obviously Breath of the Wild and the 3D games are very good as well. But it's looking pretty good, I'll say that. We're gonna see Japan's numbers and everything, but it's looking pretty good there. Also, we did find out what that Switch Lite feature was from FDG and a workaround for Mario Odyssey from Nintendo, and it looks like Hideo Kojima's tweet that he put out was kind of mistranslated and then translated correctly, and it ended up being a whole thing. We're going to go over all of that and more today, guys. As always, enjoy these videos. Make sure you hit the like button. It does help out, and get subscribed so you can stay up to date on all of the gaming news going on in the gaming world. And we're going to start today with, well, WB Montreal, because they continue to tweet everything out about what looks like a new Batman game. They tweeted again, and it seems like they're becoming more and more active as we head towards State of Play, which is happening today, 1 p.m. Pacific time. It's 4 p.m. Eastern. I'm gonna be checking that out. I'm excited to see what they have, because if there is a new Batman game there, and they have Last of Us Part 2, possibly Ape Escape, this could end up being a pretty good presentation. It's 20 minutes, so it should be pretty straightforward, I would say, which is what I prefer after seeing Nintendo Direct compared to something like Inside Xbox that can take, we've seen upwards of 2 hours, and it feels like it's just taking forever. I like the cut and dry, pre-recorded 20-minute shots. That way better, but yeah, it looks like from what they're showing where they're tweeting out those symbols again, looks like it has something to do with the Court of Owls and Batman, so it's exciting stuff. I like the Batman games a lot, so I am excited, and I kind of expect it at this point because of how active they're becoming with their teasing. This State of Play is probably where they're going to show it off. Maybe they open with that and then close with Last of Us Part 2 with a bunch of other announcements in between. Also, we did have Divinity Original Sin 2 release on the Switch, and something that was really interesting about that situation is that it did have cross-save between the Steam version and Nintendo Switch version, which was really cool. Now, we've seen that before with something like, I know Civilization, I believe, did that also with 2K working on that. But what's interesting about this situation, as you're seeing here, this was actually an article and an interview write-up, and it was done over at PC Games, and it talks about how Valve actually worked together with Nintendo to make it all work. So they came together. We do see that like Valve worked out to be able to sign in with Steam and everything, and Nintendo worked out to be able to transfer your save over to the Switch seamlessly. And this is a very good thing to see because, I mean, it makes a ton of sense. If you're someone who plays on PC and then you want a portable system that is easy to transfer saves back and forth, that is a perfect companion system for somebody who plays PC games a lot, but then also may have to travel or maybe just aren't able to make it to their PC and they want to play locally. If you can transfer your save over and play it on your Switch, whether you're traveling or whatnot, that seems amazing. It seems like you would buy even a Switch Lite, technically, right? Because maybe you're not going to play it on a TV since when you're home, you're playing on your PC. I like this. I really hope Valve and Nintendo continue doing this going forward with basically as many games as they can, because it makes a ton of sense. You'll sell Switch systems to PC gamers as well. Oh, and check this out real quick. This is a mod for a Nintendo 64 game that you might have heard of. I don't know, Ocarina of Time, that ring a bell. Yeah, check this out. This was really neat. It was a write-up by N64 Today for Zelda 64 Dawn and Dusk. It's a new 64DD, that's right, you heard that right, expansion for Ocarina of Time. It looks pretty neat. It's for veteran players as they describe it, but it appears to be a seamless style open world almost type game. I mean, it seems to be done kind of almost in a sandbox, but you are directed to certain ways. It's almost like one big dungeon that you're going through in the world, and it's definitely for veteran players, as they say. It's just interesting that they've designed it to work with a 64DD or just your regular 64. If you have one of those like EverDrive flash cards, it'll work fine. It just seemed really neat, and again, it's for veteran players of Zelda, and it might be worth checking out if you can in an emulator even. You just need apparently the Ocarina of Time ROM, or I guess they just have it pre-patched even on some sites, but pretty neat to see this. We see all the Mario 64 ROM hacks and everything, but hey, Ocarina of Time is a classic, and I like seeing more and more built on top of it. And guys, some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start with Zelda Link's Awakening, a top-down Zelda game, a remake, of course, of the older Game Boy game by Grezzo and Nintendo. it did well in the UK. Very, very well. In fact, it's the best-selling project, basically, by Grezzo for Zelda, which, of course, they did the Ocarina of Time 3D, and then they also did Majora's Mask. This one, however, beat their best-selling game from those two by 27% for the first week. And, of course, this came out on Friday, so, yeah, pretty good there. But let's take a look at the top 10 as you're seeing. And yes, Link's Awakening at the top, number 1. Borderlands 3 actually dropped from 1 to 2. However, they did have declining sales. This is all physical, but they had declining sales by over 60%. So that would make sense why it would drop to 2 with Link's Awakening showing up on Friday. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe actually at 3. Gears 5 at 4. That dropped down from 2. eFootball PES 2020 at 5. Tom Clancy's Division 2 at 6. That actually jumped all the way up from number 20, which will happen with games as a service style games. If things happen in the game, it can jump up and down depending. Grand Theft Auto 5, which just never goes away, at 7. Spyro Reignited Trilogy at 8. Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled at 9. Then NBA 2K20 at 10. And I'm really excited to see this. This apparently is only the 3rd time Zelda has been number 1 in the UK charts, which the last time was back in 2003 and launched as Zelda Wind Waker on Nintendo GameCube. But of course, we had Breath of the Wild and everything come out as well. But this for Grezzo is like the biggest thing they've done when it comes to the UK sales charts. But what I really like to see about this is when the game was coming out, it had a lot of criticism about its pricing, and a lot of times when I see that, I say, all right, well, I guess the market will pretty much decide if that pricing's too high, because if you remember with the 3DS, Nintendo put that out for way too much money, like what it was, $250 or something. It was pretty expensive, and the market decided that that was too expensive. And remember, they had to cut the price to get it to start selling better. And we even heard, of course, infamously, that executives at Nintendo took cuts on their salary to make that price cut happen. So when I see that this is doing as well as it's doing, it, one, makes me pretty happy because, well, it seems that there is still an audience for a top-down Zelda game, and 2, makes me feel like Nintendo looked at this and said, okay, what other top-down Zelda games can we do? Because while I like the remakes, don't get me wrong, I really liked seeing Link's Awakening come back, right, in 2019 with that kind of art style and everything. I think I'm ready for a new top-down Zelda game, like a new one to play on the Switch. We, of course, had Link Between Worlds on the 3DS, and I really liked that game because it was basically Link to the Past, but they added some new features, changed up the overworld a bit, and then, of course, had the rental system for your items and merging into the wall. But let's do a new top-down Zelda game, different graphical style. I think that's great, but I think that can stay with Link's Awakening, and let's do something really, really neat here. And I would like to see Nintendo put like one of their better studios. Grezzo's good, but like one of their bigger studios on a project like that and see what can happen, because I mean, it seems to sell. I'm sure Zelda and Link's Awakening, the title helped to sell it, but it's number 1 here in the UK. It sounds like it's selling well in the US, and we'll see Japan sales numbers pretty soon alongside the Switch Lite. I think we're ready. Let's do another top-down Zelda game. I guess you could technically take Grezzo and put them on on remakes of like Oracle Ages or Seasons, or you could technically go with the DS games because people didn't like using the stylus as much. You could go grab Spirit Tracks or something and bring that over Phantom Hourglass. But so far, so good. Looks like Link's Awakening is going to be a big seller this Christmas. And hey, maybe we'll get out of this, maybe we'll get a new top-down Zelda game, and that would be amazing. Next up, let's talk about the new Switch Lite feature that FDG had been teasing before for Monster Boy, and then they revealed. And then we'll also talk a little bit about how Nintendo is trying to get around some of the issues when it comes to the Switch Lite and certain games. Like, it doesn't have HD Rumble, and some games do rely on that, right? Mario Odyssey being one of them. Well, it looks like they've quietly, it seemed, patched in some ways around that. But here's the thing that happened with Monster Boy, and it might not seem like a massive deal. I kind of like it. It's neat. It's a free update. If you already have the game, it's part of 1.05. You just download it, but they put this tweet out. And basically the idea here is, as they say, life is colorful. Monster Boy 1.0.5 patch released today, and you could set the game UI/HUD to the color of your Nintendo Switch Lite console. Those include colors of yellow, turquoise, red, pink, gray, and green, so I guess they're covered for any other ones that Nintendo might want to do, or I guess if you just have Joy-Con controllers of that color on your regular Switch, you can do that. And a feature also works, as they say, on the original Switch. I like the idea. It's not massive, it's not groundbreaking, but they told us that technically we didn't need it. It wasn't something that people actually need. It was just an idea that came to them. Hey, what if the UI matched the Switch Lite that you bought in terms of color? Because people were making a big deal out of turquoise and yellow, and to an extent gray, but definitely turquoise. Turquoise was like the big one I saw online. It's neat, it matches, it's fun, and it's, again, not a big deal, but it's pretty cool. However, what happens in a game like Mario Odyssey where you might need the rumble, but your Switch Lite doesn't have rumble? Well, interestingly enough, on Reddit, there was a video that was posted and people started figuring out that instead of it rumbling, the screen will actually shake when you're near a moon, for example, where you'd use the rumble to find. The screen will continue to shake more and more to tell you where it is, and that actually might have a strange effect on some people depending on how that screen, I could see that maybe giving people some headaches or something, but that is it. That is also a pretty good way to do that, considering, like I said, the Switch Lite, no rumble or anything. I kind of like the idea for Monster Boy, and hey, maybe other games will do something similar because it's just fun, like I said, but either way, Switch Lite features can be something to keep an eye on in games to get around things like no rumble, or hey, maybe to play around with customization based on the colors. Next up, let's talk about Sony and Microsoft and combating climate change, as they say, and there were a couple different blog posts that were put out. Specifically, Sony talked about the PlayStation 5 and Microsoft talked a bit about the Xbox's just manufacturing and creation process and what they can do to, as they say, make it carbon neutral. So let's start with Sony. Sony's is a bit more straightforward. I think they actually put this post out, and it describes a bit more about the PlayStation 5 and how they're going to make it more energy efficient. Now, of course, there is a rest mode, but they describe the rest mode for the PlayStation 5 as being way more efficient than what the PS4 is. It says, I am also very pleased to announce the next generation PlayStation console will include the ability to suspend gameplay with much lower power consumption than PlayStation 4, which we estimate can be achieved at around 0.5 watts. If just 1 million users enable this feature, it would save equivalent to the average electricity of 1,000 US homes. And of course, we know generally, Sony will sell upwards of 80, 100, 110 million. It's hard to say where the PS4 will end, but that will be significant in terms of energy savings, and rest mode does help when it comes to things like downloads and everything. And look, Nintendo, of course, has a low-powered system already, but we know the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox can be sucking up power like nobody's business because they should be pretty much cutting edge and pushing as much as possible when it comes to graphical fidelity and everything within reason for cost, and of course, probably a box that's, just large enough to let air go through at this point. But Microsoft is going in a different direction, it almost seems. See, Sony is working to make the box itself lower power in rest mode, whereas Microsoft appears to be working towards making their manufacturing process a bit more environment friendly, where they say that 825,000 Xbox systems will be part of a pilot program to make it carbon neutral. Mostly has to deal with manufacturing process. I'm curious how they're going to be doing that. They didn't really explain as much, but they could be doing stuff more or less for the environment to even out what they're doing in manufacturing. Hard to say there, but I mean, it's not a bad thing. I actually think the part that'll affect us the most, because of course it also goes along with our energy bills at home, is probably the PlayStation 5 using less power in rest mode, since I will leave my PlayStation 4 in rest mode quite a bit, especially since it can update and patch while it's doing that. And if I have to download something and it's just sitting there waiting, for like a 60 gigabyte game to download, throw it in rest mode and it'll actually download a bit faster anyway. Most people have pretty much realized this at this point. But hey, good news there, and I'm glad to hear that at least on our end, the PS5 will be more energy efficient in rest mode. And our last bit of news, let's talk a bit about Hideo Kojima. He's of course making Death Stranding, along with obviously a large group of developers. It sounds like it's actually 80 people, which is what we've seen reports for, which isn't that many, to be honest. We've seen Assassin's Creed and other games take up to 400 people to get that done. Breath of the Wild took quite a few people as well. They even had to call in Monolith to help get it done. But Death Stranding is coming out in November. Hideo actually put out a tweet that seemed to rub a lot of people the wrong way, but it seemed to have come down to mistranslation. So I want to show you, because this was making the rounds, it's all over the place, and the actual translation didn't really make as much, I guess, in terms of viewership around Twitter. I'll say that, because of course the other one gets passed around a lot because there's controversy around it. But let's actually take a look at both of them here. We'll start with the one that seemed to set a lot of people off and create confusion. This is the tweet from Hideo Kojima saying, a Hideo Kojima game means a declaration of me doing concept, produce, original story, script, setting, game design, casting, dealing, directing, difficulty adjustments, promoting, visual design, editing, supervising the merch. Basically, looking at that, it sounds like Kojima is saying he's doing everything and not actually giving any credit at all to the people around him. Well, this is the actual translation as you're seeing here. This was put out by a user of Naomi Clark, saying a Hideo Kojima game means being involved in creation from the early stages, planning concept, story, script, game design, casting, negotiating, to later details. And then it goes on to essentially say, I am involved, not necessarily I'm doing everything. And that is the biggest problem with the translation. Involved being you are providing guidance, working with other people and everything, not I'm just doing everything, right? That didn't go over well with a lot of people online, and it turned into a whole thing. But it was really just a mistranslation. Now, later on, people basically either deleted tweets or like, oh, we got a little too crazy there. Yeah, that's the problem. Kojima needs to come up with a better translator, or I don't know who's posting this stuff on there, specifically when it comes to referencing his work on Death Stranding. If I were him, though, and I'm sure the developers that are working with him would say the same thing because they want the game to be a success. You leverage his name, right? You put his name on it, obviously, because it's going to help sell it. But I think at this point, we've heard about the 80 developers that he's working with. We know it's not just him doing it, but I can see why people might have seen that original tweet. But at least the new one that's actually translated shows that he's just saying he's involved in it, and that's all. Not that he's doing it all. And we'll finish up the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This one is from Zen Underground saying, a good Superman game is far overdue. How many more Batman games do we need before a new Superman? You know, I've thought about Superman, and I think it might be kind of hard. It sounds weird. It might be kind of hard to make a Superman game. That was one of the arguments I saw a while ago thrown out there, because Superman is very powerful, and the way to, I guess, make it interesting is if you take his powers away, but that almost seems like a cop-out, because then you basically earn your powers back, and that's the issue. I think Batman is a little easier because he's mortal, he doesn't have superpowers like Superman. Although it would be fun to just feel ultra powerful as Superman and just go all over the place and destroy everything and fight a bunch of his enemies. But I think that's the biggest thing we're dealing with right now. It'd just be hard to make one for him. And ladies and gentlemen, let's go do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit the like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about today, whether it is Link's Awakening and its sales in the UK, or Kojima's tweets, or the Switch Lite features. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.